Welcome to Fresh Start Podcast. I'm Dave Henning, and I'm excited to have my guest today, Una Doyle from the UK. And Una is a speaker, a biz coach, and a consultant. And she's going to be speaking to us about her project, creativeflow.tv, and what exactly that means to entrepreneurs and creative types of people out there with micro businesses. Welcome, Una. Good to have you here.
Oh, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So tell us a little bit about the kinds of things that you are teaching and training on. I know you do a lot of public speaking and so forth. So a little bit about what that encompasses.
Sure. So a lot of my clients are service-based business owners, quite often in the creative services space, but not always. I do get people from other industries and types of businesses as well. But the thing is that there's a bit of an epidemic in service-based businesses of them undercharging and over-delivering. Okay, you're nodding your head.
Oh, yes.
You've obviously seen this before.
Been there, done that myself, yeah.
Right, gotcha. Yes, me too when I first started out. And for a lot of service-based business owners, they get really frustrated because they go out there and they want to make an impact. They want to help. And so they help and they give and they get to the discussion about price. And then people kind of go, "Ooh, how much?" And they go, "Oh, I'll just do it myself." Or, "Oh, I'm going to get my neighbor's nephew to do this website," or, this kind of thing. And so there's a big gap between what they're capable of doing and how they're demonstrating their value in ways that actually means that, people are prepared to pay, for their services. So there's a few kind of ways of thinking that get in the way, really, as well as just how people structure their businesses.
I once, along that line, heard about an artist. I think he was in the Tennessee area, and he had some beautiful paintings, but he was struggling he had a barn full of gorgeous paintings that he had done, struggling to market them. And a friend of his, actually the guy, Alex Haley, I believe, who wrote the book Roots, said to him, "Well, what you need to do is you need to raise your price, not lower your price." And it worked. It worked for him in that particular setting. So that sounds like what you're saying.
Yeah. So here's the thing. There are times when people can literally just raise their prices and they will do better. I had somebody message me who downloaded a free report that I have. I'll share where people can get that at the end, and on how to stop undercharging and over-delivering. And they had a jewelry e-commerce store. And so they thought, okay, I'm going to try what Una's saying here. And they put the prices up. In fact, they tripled it on 3 products. Those 3 products started flying off the shelves. So she emailed me to thank me and say, right, I'm going to put everything else up now as well. So there are definitely times and places when people can do that. I remember speaking to a photographer once, and he was offering a great service. He was good at photography. He had a big clientele, and he really could have been charging more. And he went away from that conversation going, actually, do you know what? I am going to put my prices up a bit. However, a lot of the time people come up against some blockers. They find that they're worried about the pushback that they're going to get with putting their prices up. So sometimes it can be a lot about the person's own mindset, but it's also in the way that they are delivering everything. So what I talk about is that you've got to get what I call your client attraction and conversion engine right. So the first part of that is about being really clear on who your ideal client is. And I'm sure you've heard that before, David. It's not news, is it? Yet not everybody actually does it, or does it in enough depth that it really makes a significant difference for them. So because you've got to have this, you've got to be able to find this lovely sweet spot between your ideal client and what they want. It's not always what they need, but what they want. And your skills and experience, what you can offer them, and just, and who you are as an individual. So there's the offer of what you can deliver them, but it's like, how do you make that stand out? And I think this is the big problem with a lot of services, is that they regard themselves and act as if they were a commodity instead of actually creating their own market. So you might have heard the term blue ocean and red ocean. Have you come across that before?
No.
Okay, right. So if you think of the when you go swimming in the ocean, it's blue, right? Hopefully. So it's blue, nice green, reflecting the sky. You can imagine being on a tropical beach somewhere. What you don't want is red water, because that's a sign that there's sharks around. And this is what happens, is that when you treat your business and your offerings like commodities, then you're on a race to the bottom where you're competing on price. And all that does is create a lot of resentment and causes businesses not to be profitable. So rather than doing that, when you can come up with an offer that perfectly is a representation of you and what you can do for the best, then you're able to have a much stronger connection with your ideal client. You see, the thing is that you've got to take an approach of having value-based pricing. Value is in the eye of the beholder. So, and sometimes, the right ideal client will value your offerings much higher than you would yourself even. And that's why a lot of the time when I talk to businesses, they're actually going after the wrong people. They're trying to get in front of the wrong clients. They're trying to persuade people to spend X amount on something when actually it's just not worth that to them. So it's really important to be able to make sure that they're targeting the right kind of client who has the ability and the willingness to pay, and who the difference that you can make to them is actually really worth something to them, that they are prepared to pay for that. And here's what happens when you do that, is that you then have clients who they're not trying to pay peanuts and expecting the world. They're not micromanaging every move. In fact, that's a big objection a lot of people have. When I first start talking to them, they think, oh, but if I go for these bigger clients, or if I go for these more expensive offerings, then there's going to be way more pressure to deliver. Actually, as long as you can back up what you're saying you're able to do, which you ought to be able to do that. You've got to be acting with integrity, right? As long as you can back that up, once they are convinced that you can do the job and help them out, they are too busy to micromanage you. They are paying you so they don't have to micromanage you. That is what they are finding valuable. They value their time more than money. Whereas a lot of the time when people aren't charging enough, they value money more than their time. So you've got to make that.
Yeah. So how does posturing or positioning yourself as an authority in your field, how does that affect that process of making yourself more valuable rather than your product? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually, I think that depends on the situation and the person involved. And I think there's a few different things that come into play here. So one of those things that comes into play is actually what is the level of experience that the person has, and how long have they been doing what they do, or having a team that does what they do, to be able to really demonstrate that value and that credibility. The other thing is about the person's natural strengths and weaknesses. So a lot of the authority creating strategies actually suit certain personalities better than others. So if you have somebody, so I use personality profiling with all my clients. I use a tool called Ignition. It's great, it's fun, it's lighthearted, and very meaningful. And so when I'm working with a client, we are using this to structure their business model, the way that they actually attract, convert those clients. We're building it into their offer and how they want to deliver to those clients once they, are paying them. And so where you have somebody who, say, is more introverted, more data focused, more analytical, then they're not going to want to be speaking on stages or doing, live videos, or perhaps even doing podcast interviews. They may not want to do things like that. That might not be, it's not that they can't do it, and they may do it occasionally, but it's not going to want to be like a kind of principal strategy for them. Whereas, like for me, for my profile, I love nothing more than being on camera, on a podcast, on a stage. That's where I come to life. I feel very at home in that. And so I use that, I build that into my business. And in fact, I'm actually planning to launch my own podcast in September.
Excellent.
Right. So there might be other ways that person, the more introverted, data focused person, could create authority. So they may do it by having blog posts, and maybe those things could be turned into a book. They could have all the ideas and hire a ghostwriter. So there's lots of different ways that people can create authority. But what I want to dispel is the myth that you have to have hundreds of thousands of followers and you have to be like up there, visible in front of everybody in order to have a successful business. It's not true. And here's the kicker as well. When you charge appropriately and you have put together something that's really of value to your ideal clients, and you're using what is in flow for you to be able to grow your business in that way, then you probably need less clients than you think. And it's really about how you kind of bring them into your universe and build a relationship with them and demonstrate the value that you have by actually helping them. I call it a sales structure that sells.
Years ago, I had a blog that I used to write called, basically the concept was how to make full-time money for part-time work.
Okay, great.
And if you're in that sweet spot, as you said, of charging the right amount, a higher price that makes sense for the clients and attracting those kinds of clients, you're going to have better ROI with less clients, as you mentioned. So you don't need the huge mistake I see people making from my perspective is, as you said, they kind of like, well, who's your customer? Well, anybody and everybody. Or if they can fog a mirror, they qualify as my client. But you were saying the converse of that. And one of the things that you've created is I love the title, Creative Flow TV, and that kind of puts in a nutshell what you're describing today, does it not?
Absolutely, because every creative, at the end of the day, what they really want is to do work that they're proud of. And you can't do work you're proud of if you are undervaluing yourself. Generally speaking, what I find in helping my clients to craft their offering and to put everything in place to make sure that they get to attract and convert those wonderful clients for them is that they get so excited. They get so passionate. Quite often they've been in business for years. I've actually worked with clients who've been in business for 20 years. And then they end up getting, their passion is reignited because they're excited about being able to deliver their best work. All those things that they were banging their heads against the wall previously trying to get clients to pay for. Actually, if you bundle it up into the right offer and it's positioned and marketed in the right way, then, because it has to be something people want, but they don't really care about how they get to the destination. They just want the destination. And so there's a lot there in the way that a lot of service providers and small businesses are positioning themselves and the way they conduct themselves in their business. And a lot of that comes from the mindset. So there's a huge amount of work that I do with clients around their mindset. So because I had too many situations where I had people who did really well. They were able to double. In fact, there was one client who had, in some cases, tripled their prices. We'd been working together for 6 months, and they came on a call one day and said, Una, I've just got my numbers back from my accountant, and my last year's figures were doubled because of the work we've done together. Right? Do you know what happened then?
No, what? Tell me.
They stopped doing everything that worked.
Oh, no.
Self-sabotage kicked in.
Oh.
Right? So they went on holiday, and then so they missed a couple of calls because of that, and then it took them a while to book another one, and then they postponed it. And by the time I was kind of going, something doesn't feel right here. And by the time I got on the phone with them, they'd lost a client. They were doubting themselves. They were kind of saying, oh, how do I do this? I'm like, but you know how to do this because we've already worked through it all. And I said, look, do you know what's going on here? It's a mindset thing. And that's why I incorporated the mindset side of it into my offerings so that I can help people with that. So either myself or partners that I work with, we do an amazing technique that helps people to really shift those patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving that causes them to get in their own way, that causes them to procrastinate, that causes them to not charge appropriately, get the work, and then feel resentful for getting and having to do that work, that causes them to shy away from opportunities to be visible or to be able to move their business forward, that causes them to want to control everything and not delegate and outsource in better ways. So all of these kinds of patterns, and money issues, gosh, that is such a big thing. People have got a lot of issues around money. I did myself. I grew up hearing money doesn't grow on trees. My mother, she told me that she's no idea how her mother managed to put food on the table. My mum grew up in Waterford. It's a very small town in Ireland. I'm Irish. I just live in the UK now. And, for a long time, her father was out of work, like all the men were out of work because there just wasn't any work. And she was one of 7 children. So all that stuff carried over, and then I inherited it, some of it, because it's what I heard growing up. So it's so important. This is the other piece in the puzzle, is to make sure that you're making any mindset shifts necessary at a deep enough level that then you actually get to be the real you, the you that has these amazing gifts and where you're actually really happy to share those with the world. David, let me ask you a question. Imagine you were going shopping for the holidays and you were getting gifts for everybody. Would you wrap them up beautifully, put the tags on, bows and everything, and then go and put them in a cupboard?
Not a good idea.
No, because you have these gifts and you want to give them, but this is what a lot of smaller business owners do, is that they prevent themselves from giving their gifts to other people. And that's actually what brings great joy and fulfillment. That's usually why people have set up in business in the first place, is to help others.
I'm still looking for that tree that you were talking about that the money grows on.
Well, I remember hearing in a personal growth seminar when I first got into this kind of stuff, and somebody said, who said money doesn't grow on trees? Money's made of paper. Paper is made from trees. Therefore, money does grow on trees.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I discovered, despite looking like my mother's side of my family, that I actually have ancestry in Donegal, Ireland. So we're probably cousins somewhere along the line.
It's a beautiful part of the world. Very, very hilly. Yes.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So you put together at one point 8 stages of business development to reduce overwhelm and stress. And especially in times like these, it's a good idea to figure out how to reduce stress. Although I've been working from home basically for over 25 years, so I'm kind of used to it, but I would like to get out more than I do right now and under the worldwide circumstances. So tell us about, I want to ask about this. You have something called a free 5-day challenge. What is that?
Oh, that is something that I ran previously.
Ah,
So it's not live at the moment, unfortunately, but I am thinking I might do a challenge again. Not in the next month or two, but maybe after that. So if people want to connect with me, they can go to creativeflow.tv/resources. And I have some downloads and things that people can access there. And they can connect with me there on LinkedIn, and then they'll get to hear about the different things that I have for them.
I'm speaking with Una Doyle today, and I love to hear what you are saying and how you're sharing the things that you do and how you're able to help businesses uh, really find out what their real identity, their gifts, and their talents, and to not hide those gifts away, as some ancient book talks about us as well. What would you like me to share with our listeners? I have creativeflow.tv/resources, and I'll be sharing that with our audience. Anything else that you would like to share that I could pass along and help you as well?
Well, if people want to connect with me on LinkedIn, that would be great. I'm quite active on there. Also, I have my Business Impact Book Club, which is a project I'm very excited about. So, as we've talked about in today, people set up in business because they want to make a difference, they want to make an impact. And one of the ways that I do that is in conjunction with my partners, B1G1, which originally stood for Buy One, Give One. But actually, it is kind of the whole ethos behind it has grown. B1G1 is an organization that has collated a lot of charitable projects, and they have vetted them to make sure that they fit within certain parameters, so they don't spend too much on admin, that they actually are empowering projects. Because sometimes charity can be a bit disempowering, and so they don't even really, we don't talk about donations, we talk about giving impacts, because that's what we want to do. Is we want to give, we want to make an impact. And a lot of the projects on there are to do with, well, they're all aligned with the sustainable global goals, which is brilliant. So if you have particular goals that you're passionate about, you can pick projects that are aligned with those. So that's really great. And the way this features with the book club is that the book club is about making an impact in your role or in your business through the learning you get. So we meet on Zoom once a month and we discuss the book that has been that month's read. But it's not just about theoretical discussion. It's also, you're getting coached to say, okay, what are you going to do as a result of what you have learned? So what's something that you can change in the way you're living your life, in the way you're running your business or your team to make a difference? So it's free for people to attend. And every time somebody shows up, I make a giving impact. So the giving impact is typically 15 days of access to textbooks for children in Kenya. And then each month, depending on the book that we choose, and I tend to put out a poll to the members of the book club as to which book, I give them a choice of 3 and go, which one of these do you want to read this month? So depending on the book, I'll pick something that's aligned. So for instance, a few months ago, we read The Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey. If you've heard of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, it's
yes.
Covey Jr., his son. I actually have met him. My gosh, what an amazing man. Like, just phenomenal. Anyway, that's another long story. Of course, that's all about trust. And I chose a project that is microloans in Africa. And these, they give loans to groups of women the way this project operates. I actually heard one of the people from this project speak at the B1G1 conference. I was speaking at it last October down in London. So in the way that they operate is they give loans to a group of women. They train them together, and if any of the women have a problem, they're all jointly responsible for repaying the loan. So they all help each other. They build trust with each other, and they have a hugely high repayment rate because of the way that they do it. So if one of the women, if they have an illness in the family, or they get ill themselves, or there's some kind of emergency that they can't operate their business, the other women will pool together and operate the business for them, so they don't lose their income, and so that it all works really well. So I kind of look to tie things with that. So it's free for people to attend, and then if they want, they can buy a ticket for good. But it's totally up to them. There's no obligation. It's just all about how can we make a bigger impact in the world.
That is fantastic. And as from our previous discussion, I think I shared with you that I'm passionate about education worldwide, and we've been blessed, my wife and I, to be a part of our school projects in Kenya and among the Maasai tribe. And ironically that you mentioned the microloans, because that's something that two things that we did some time back. One was, it's been a few years now, that we brought over several hundred Kindle readers. And we had a former Amazon person who works with a nonprofit preload children's books, textbooks, and reading books in both Swahili and English. And because we didn't have to get through customs with the books, we were able to download them from the existing Wi-Fi cell phone towers locally there in a very remote area. And we brought in basically a Honda generator because they had no electricity to charge.
I was going to ask, how would they charge it?
To charge those wires coming out of this Honda generator, charging all these readers. And our students oftentimes would give up their recess and playing football, soccer, and rather grab a reader and read something instead. So it's been a fascinating journey to see that. And then we actually found a local bank right there in this little tiny village that set up microloans for the local women in our community, very similar to almost exactly what you're talking about.
Maybe it's the same project.
Yeah, and the bank actually came in and trained the women, and they have cottage industries, and they're helping each other. And ironically, the men who enjoyed sitting around and drinking their chai tea in the afternoon saw that, oh, my wife is making money now, maybe I should help. So,
right.
Intended consequences rather than unintended consequences. So
yeah,
that is fantastic. We need to chat offline here some more and see how we can help each other along this line.
And actually, as I mentioned to you, and I'd love to just share with your listeners as well, is that, if you are involved in a charitable project, please contact B1G1 and talk to them about becoming one of their projects, because it could really prove a boost in income. And actually, the process that you need to go through, it's not an overnight thing, but the process you need to go through to be one of their approved projects is really good for your business. It's going to make you think about how you do things, how you run things, and you'll probably find just even doing that will bring benefits.
Yeah, that's exciting, very exciting. So I'm speaking with Una Doyle. It has been a real pleasure, and I really appreciate chatting with you today and learning more about you and sharing the good news of how you are able to help micro businesses and entrepreneurs and creative people really maximize their impact and improve their self-esteem and self-image. So, Una, once again, thank you so much for being my guest today. I'm Dave Henning with Fresh Start Podcast. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.